YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. And two trades went down in the NFL today, both actually involving the LA Rams. So I'm here to break down both those trades and give some grades out for all three of these teams, but the Rams will be getting two different grades because of two different trades. So a bit to go over here. I also hope there's more trades to come since the deadline is approaching. Last week we did big trade scenarios video, 24 different trade scenarios that are realistic. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Hoping some of those could happen there. And this is actually, if you're watching this on Tuesday the 15th, this is actually our third video of the day, and we have a fourth one coming, our straight up picks of week 7 on the way. So GOAT House is feeling it today. We got you covered, as you can see, and we got more content, even more content available on our Patreon. You can get more score predictions, plus you can get updated playoff predictions. I update those every single week. Updated NFL mock drafts. I update my NFL mocks every single week. Updated order and prospects. All that and more you can get just by going to patreon.com/thegoathouse. Link in the description. You can help us out a bunch by checking that out, and you get some extra content too. So also appreciate it if you can subscribe, because we're trying to get that 40K goal by the end of the year. I'll be much appreciated if you guys can help us out there. Full NFL and college football content all year long, so we got you covered. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter. Let's talk about these trades. We'll just start with the big one. Marcus Peters is the big one. Kenny Young. The Rams get Kenny Young and a 5th-round draft pick. The Ravens get Marcus Peters. So talking about Kenny Young, young inside linebacker. Doesn't really have, I'd assume there's nothing really more to learn in terms of the scheme. It's the same scheme. It's very similar. 3-4 defenses coming from the Ravens to the Rams, actually, and they get a 5th-round pick. Ravens obviously get Marcus Peters, who was I'd say the former best corner in football. It's been a few years since then. Then kind of slowed down a little bit, went down a little bit, but was still good. And now this year, last year inconsistent, had great moments, had weak moments, and then this year struggling a little bit. But you like to think that he has that potential in him. Maybe a change of scenery can help him here. But yeah, I was kind of going back to Kenny Young. I was kind of surprised to see Kenny Young in a pick. I was going just because he's young and he was a key piece. I don't know, not an extremely key piece, but pretty solid at the end of last year, and he's shown promise. That's what I should be saying here. He's shown promise for the future, and he still can. And maybe didn't live up to expectations so far in this early, season, young career. But I still thought he'd be part of it. He was playing to start the year, then maybe somewhat of a letdown. And then he ends up getting benched the last 2 weeks. 0 snaps, actually. Josh Bynes has taken over for the most part, and they get LJ Fort in there getting 28 snaps this past week. So it looks like they found their replacement, but I thought Kenny Young was a part of the future. I liked him. He's comes from UCLA. A lot of good linebackers coming out of UCLA. And the question is, did they have to give up the Ravens go a 5th-round pick. Nothing major, but a pick along with that. Question is, did they need a corner that badly? I thought they needed one. I don't know if they necessarily needed one that badly, but it could help now and for the future, because Jimmy Smith is not part of the future. They do have Brandon Carr, but it's really Marlon Humphrey. He looks like one of the better corners in football. So I guess pair Marcus Peters with Marlon Humphrey, and that could be a pretty good pair. And like I said, it could revive his career there. My problem with let's talk about my grades, and I'll kind of go back to what I was about to say. That's my grades, and I kind of had to sit on this a little bit and really think about it. And let me start with the Ravens. I'm going to give them an A- because I think they get better for this year. They benched Kenny Young anyways, and that's maybe why I couldn't give them better than an A-, even though it's a really good grades, because Kenny Young I thought was a good pick. I thought would be part of their future. So that's a little bit of a knock, but nothing major. You think about it, Kenny Young and a 5th-round pick for Marcus Peters, even though he's struggling at the moment, that's still a pretty good deal. I would have guessed a little more it would have taken in terms of the draft pick, but I guess the Rams valued Kenny Young. So it can help him for this year. It definitely can help him. If I had to split hairs here, find a negative, maybe does this really, help them? Because it's a little more of a cap hit too, but does this really help them, take that next step to the Super Bowl? Because that's what they're trying to do here. That's the question we got to ask ourselves. But A-, I think they get better today. They weren't really using Kenny Young anyways, even though they could have in the future. So, down the line, a couple years from now, this could be, maybe not look as good. But I think Peters will play better on the Ravens. I think so. It seems like defenders play better once they get, into that with that coaching staff. The Rams a little messy right now, so I think that can work out. The Rams get a B. I like the idea of Kenny Young, getting added to the mix there on that Rams defense in the inside. Like I said, he's going to stay at the same. He's going to stay at the same position. He's going to play inside. He's going to play alongside Corey Littleton. That's a future. That they got their duo for the future. Littleton, very impressive middle linebacker who they use as a gem they found. So they have their duo there. So I do like that. But my why a B? B is still a good grade. It's still a good grade, but did they get better today is what I'm asking myself, and I don't think they did. I think they definitely got better for the future. And I know they get a pick with it, nothing special, but they did not get better today. Aqib Talib goes to the IR, and then Troy Hill is going to have to step up, and he did step up. Last week he got 100% of the snaps. It was Peters and Troy Hill with 100% of the snaps outside, and then Roby Coleman got 38% of the snaps actually in the slot because every team doesn't play with a nickel every single play. And that was it because Talib's on the IR. So you take away Peters now, and it's Talib will be back hopefully at some point. Maybe you would think, but I mean for right now, for this year, to battle in the NFC, the battle getting the playoffs. It's looking like Roby Coleman, who's a slot guy, Troy Hill, and then this is kind of my prediction is David Long would be thrown in the mix, the very solid corner, athletic corner from Michigan. And the question would be, are they comfortable with David Long outside? Thought he was more of a slot corner, but I do like him. I think they'll throw him outside. Wild card prediction, I guess. Maybe you think this. They can throw Roby Coleman outside and put David Long in the slot. Troy Hill will be on the outside. So basically what I'm getting to, right now I don't think they got better. But I still leave them at a B because Peters wasn't part of their future, and you have to think about future here. They get Kenny Young, and they get a 5th-round pick. And they clear some cap. You gotta put that in there too. But so sum it up, basically the way I was explaining it sounded like a really bad trade because they have no corners this year, went bad this year, but it's not just about this year. There are some positives, but the main thing that stands out is, it probably hurt them this year. And the Ravens, I think, got better for right now. I don't know if they gave up a whole bunch, so that they do get that A-. Let's talk about the other Rams trade, which involved the Browns. Austin Corbett goes to the Rams, a 2021, so not this upcoming NFL draft, the next one, a 5th-rounder from that 2021 draft. Goes to the Browns there. So that's an interesting one. And we'll just show the grades here. A+ for the Rams and a D for the Browns. So the Rams get a B and they get an A+ from me in these deals. The future looks good. If I had to give put these together and grade for the future, it's a great grade. It's a great grade. So if you're thinking future, you got to be happy if you're a Rams fan. Right now, the corner spot looks a little weak, but why is it an A+? I mean, there's very low risk in this. You don't even trade a this year 5th. You trade a next year 5th. I know you can find a gem with the 5th. It's definitely possible. But you also get much needed help. The offensive line's been struggling. They lost Saffold. They lost got some aging guys. Sullivan's the center who they lost, so Corbett's a guard. But who knows? Maybe they got another plan for him. But either way, you lost some guys. Now the offensive line's struggling, and now you have some injuries. This is a low risk, and it's needed. He's young. He still has potential. I wasn't as high as where he got picked in terms of his evaluation during his draft class. When the Browns picked him a little early is basically what I'm getting at. But I still thought he's good. Still thought he has potential. So, it's low risk, and it's what they needed. So they get an A+. Why did the Browns get a D? Well, you could say, he wasn't starting. They weren't really using him anyways. That's true. So I guess that's what keeps him from an F. It's just it feels like this was like a desperate trade, but this should not be a desperate trade. He's still under his rookie contract. Your offensive line's struggling. You don't have much depth. I know it's mainly the tackles that are struggling, but you don't have the depth. You definitely could use this guy as a depth guy. Who knows? Maybe he can turn into a starter. Another big reason is, this is kind of why you have kind of not, different than what the Texans are doing, even though they're looking good right now. That's kind of besides the point. This is the reason why you have a separate coach and GM, because, what Dorsey didn't think about here was that, right now Freddie Kitchens is, I don't want to say on the hot seat. I think he's going to get more of a chance, but people make it seem like he's on the hot seat. He might not last long. People don't like him as a head coach, like him as an offensive mind. So if there's a time, if I had to put money on it, Dorsey lasts a lot longer than Freddie Kitchens. And then so it's a different coaching staff. Usually the guys bring their own coaching staff. So I think Corbett, a young guy that can continue to get better, could have worked out with another staff, and he could eventually been a starter here. And they used a pretty high draft pick on him. So, and the main thing though, all that going into it puts it at D. But the main thing is, it felt like it was desperate. It felt like they needed to get rid of this guy. Give us a 2021 fifth round pick. We need to cut this cap. We need to cut this terrible player. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Especially when you have an offensive line problem. He's nothing crazy, so don't get that idea in your head with the 8+ next to the Rams. It's just about value, what you traded, what you needed. I don't expect a whole bunch from him right now. It's just everything I explained kind of goes into it. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So that's my grades. Let me know your guys' thoughts. If you got a different thought, let me know in the comments. We also have plenty of other videos on the channel already. We recently did our power rankings for heading into week 7. A lot of changes there. So check that out if you haven't quite yet. We got our picks for week 7 coming up. We got my score predictions coming up. Locks, all kinds of videos every single week, and even more on the Patreon. So check that out. It would help us out. Also help us out by subscribing. Thanks everyone for watching this video. Goodbye.